AM 1020 KDKA. This is Cars, Stars, and everything in between. He's the star, Richard Bazzi from Schultz Ford at schultzford.com. I'm Bubba from 100.7 Star. And the county's top elected official, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, is our guest for Cars, Stars, and everything in between. Welcome to the show.
It is great. Thank you. It is great to be with you guys and look forward to the conversation.
And, Rich, that's actually exactly what it is. I have heard so many things about you that it just makes me, it begets the question. And there are so many questions. When I think of you, frankly, I think of legacy. I think of names like Pete Flaherty, all the legacy names and that were mayors and fabulous mayors of our city. And then there's you as a county executive that's departing. And I don't want to start with the ending, but boy, I'll tell you, if we can convince you to run for mayor at some point, I mean, we're coming right at you. And I got to tell you, Pete Flaherty, Dick Caligiuri, O'Connor. Come on, man. These guys are legacy names. And then there's Rich Fitzgerald. It kind of falls off when you go, and Ed Gainey. No, sorry. Can't say it. And then, you go, well, Luke Ravenstall. Could have been. But that's another conversation. He really made me mad personally, but that's okay. But anyway, so you add to that legacy and, anybody that knows you, and we share a friend, Marty Griffin, and Marty's probably one of the most difficult people to gain his support, trust, and acknowledgement. And he absolutely loves you and speaks so highly. As a matter of fact, on the side note, he did say probably something I shouldn't say, but you guys did both date the same girl one time.
Yeah, I think, we all went to the same high school and we kind of hung out in the same group. So I think probably a lot of us dated different people and sometimes crossed people. And so, yeah, Marty and I go way, way back. But it's to earn his respect. You're absolutely right, because he doesn't. He's pretty cynical, I guess, or maybe not cynical, but he's skeptical. Might be a better way to say it.
Yeah, and the skepticism crosses to the cynicism, but you know what? It brings out the truth, and really that's his platform. It's all about.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, and for you to put my name in those folks is really, it's humbling in many ways, and it's interesting that the folks that you're describing are all city people. And the position that I hold is a fairly new position. And for those of us of a certain age, we can remember, when there were 3 county commissioners that kind of ran everything. And, back at the turn of the century, this century, 2000, we changed. We went to, this one leader of the entire county and really probably beyond that, the region. And I've held the seat the longest. Dan Honorato held it for 8 years. Jim Roddy held it for 4. So it's been a long time, in the position, and we have certainly changed over those last 10 or 20 years. You can go through neighborhoods like East Liberty or the Strip District and just see visually, so much different than, many of us who grew up here and remembered those neighborhoods in particular. So we're in a very, very big changing time. And, bringing new people in and new industries and robotics and all the exciting things we're doing. And I've been blessed to be part of that.
Rich, you touch on a couple topics. Do you have an affinity for the number 8?
Well, Churchill was one of my favorite baseball players, so that could be it. I guess I'm dating myself that I remember Willie and saw Willie play. Yes, I guess that's a crazy 8 or 8 is enough or whatever kind of, yes, my 8 children is, of all the things that, my wife and I do, certainly the public part, people say you've done this, you've done that. But the most proud I am is being the father of those 8 children.
And that's such an incredible feat. 8 children, all graduated from Penn State. And the other 8 is that you're responsible for the planting of 8,000 trees in Allegheny County, right?
Yes.
Not 9,000, not 7,000, 8,000.
Well, we're not done yet. We may plan a few more, so we may get it up to 9,000 or 10,000. So.
I like that. So go back to your structure, because I'm old enough to remember county commissioners like Stacy, Leonard Stacy, and I think so. That was going to be one of my questions. How did the county executive position evolve into that? It was Stacy Forrester, if I remember, right?
That's exactly right, and it changed. Actually, Pete Flaherty became a county commissioner in the latter part of his career, and John Kane. You can go way back. It's just the way counties were set up. But this region, this county, made a decision, and Tom Forster was one of those leaders of that said, it's not working. We had lost all the steel mills had closed. We had lost all these hundreds of thousands of jobs, over a very short period of time. And they realized that they needed one salesperson, one marketing person, one person in charge that could kind of bring all the 130 municipalities, the 43 school districts, bring it all together so that person could really make the sales pitch to the Googles of the world and the Facebooks of the world, even before we knew there was a Google and a Facebook. But they knew that, having one person in charge could really help the economy. So by referendum, they put a question on the ballot back in 1998. The people of Allegheny County passed it by the slimmest of margins, and we changed from the county commissioner form of government to the county executive and a county council form of government, a legislative and executive branch that we see at the federal, state, and many city levels.
So, obviously in your position, you said you do a lot of basic sales. You've met a lot of people that have come through the county over your tenure. Who to you was either the one person that you met as county executive that visited the county that you were most impressed by?
Well, I guess I'll start with some of the political leaders that I've met. And I'd have to say President Obama was one of those very, very impressive, very bright, brilliant, but down to earth kind of people that I got to interact with. I would say from some of the entertainment folks through the film office, some real characters that that you can meet. I'd say one of our own, Billy Porter, is a kind of an interesting guy, and he's kind of come into Pittsburgh as he, works in Harrisburg and New York and other places. I mean, Harrisburg, LA and Hollywood and New York and places like that. I would put him in there. There's a Peter Jackson was, one of the famous directors. And if you Google him, he was a real character that I had an interesting evening with one time, trying to convince him to shoot his next picture in Pittsburgh. So there've been a number of interesting characters I've met over the years, and it's been fun part of the job.
Rich, one of the topics that I struggle with a little bit, and Bubba struggles as business owners, and that's finding employees in the year 2023. I know we've lost in the county, I guess, 50,000 jobs. Is that a real number?
Well, it was a number that's now, I think it's down to 37,000 because we've gained some back during the COVID years. But you're exactly right. But we also have 35,000 jobs right now that are unfilled. So we can match those up tomorrow. And I will say, even in the county, our jobs that we have 6,000 employees, but we have 1,600 vacancies. We are trying to hire people. Restaurants are trying to hire people. Construction are trying to hire people. The hospitals are trying to hire. I mean, it's something that we've really never seen before. When those of us were coming out of school, when we looked somewhat in the right era, it was just the opposite. There were no jobs. It's kind of why so many people left Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh region. It's why we have so many Steeler bars in other cities, because they're Pittsburghers who moved to LA, who moved to Seattle, moved to Denver, moved to Charlotte. But now we have opportunities. We have opportunities for young people to work in whatever field they want to work in. We just need to get them out there and get them working in these jobs.
And we're going to talk more about this. We're on with County Executive Rich Fitzgerald. This is Cars, Stars, and everything in between. All right, give me 1 second. By the way. All right, we're going to do a second break here. Stand by. Richard, are you ready? Here we go. What's that, Richard? All right, here we go.
What's your name?
I'm just saving the first break real quick. I stand by. And we got about 30 seconds till this saves. Great job, by the way.
I mean, seriously.
All right, here we go. Stand by and rolling. 100.1 FM, AM 1020 KDKA. This is Cars, Stars, and Everything in Between. He's the star, Richard Bazzi from Schultz Ford. I'm Bubba from 100.7 Star. And the star of Allegheny County, he's County Executive Rich Fitzgerald. And when we last left, we were talking about jobs in the county. And so it's interesting to hear that the county itself is dealing with the same problems that the private sector has, and that's finding people that want to work.
Rich, why is that, Rich? Why? I don't get it.
I don't either, Richard. And maybe I'm a certain generation where, you know, the first thing you wanted to do when you got out of school, even when you were in school, is get a job.
Yes.
And work and go to work every day. So I don't, we're going to find out. That's one of the things we've got to really spend some time. COVID just changed everything, whether it's the work at home instead of going into the office, you know, how many days a week, sometimes every day, sometimes 2 days a week, whatever it might be. But the good thing I think about our region right now and about where we are is the diversity of jobs. You can work in the energy field with natural gas. You can work in robotics or artificial intelligence, or if you're a medical person, a nurse, a technician in respiratory therapy, there you can be in movies. We still make a lot of, whether it be movies, TV shows, entertainment, that our film office is a big part of. The chemical industry, we still make steel. You know, we've got a petrochemical plant that just came online in Beaver County for plastics. So there's a lot of different opportunities that are out there, depending on what your goal is. Whereas a generation ago or 2 generations ago, you went to work in a steel mill. You went to work in heavy industry, and that was almost all there was. But now finance, banking, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's just so much out there. If you've got the will to work and some of the skills needed to get those jobs.
And that's the quagmire for me, where we have the jobs are there, and it's transformational for an entire culture, not just the city of Pittsburgh. And
Correct.
And it feels like, and you alluded to COVID, Rich, it feels like we flipped the switch at COVID. And whether, like you said, it's work from home or not, but it seems that we flipped the culture switch, and that switch was, I don't want to work, and I'm going to collect these benefits as long as I can, because we had the COVID bills that paid people to stay home, and the unemployment payments were really, really high, and so I don't know if that ever came back. I'm really at a loss to understand it, because we have jobs. You said it. Did you ever think when you were growing up, and I have a feeling I'm probably a little older than you, but we're not that far apart, but I never would have thought that we would be talking about anything but the steel industry in the city of Pittsburgh. And I don't want to get stuck on that, because I really want to talk about you. I can't believe that you're going to be done this year. You've termed out. And we can't lose you, Rich. I mean, honestly, you're one of the guys that you're the good guy. We can't lose you. Would you consider running for mayor?
First of all, I've had a 24-year career. And what's interesting is I had a 30-year career before that. I'm an engineer is what my background is. I'm a mechanical engineer and spent 30 years in that industry, private industry, doing well, enjoying what I did, fixing, things. That's what engineers kind of do. And then I ran for this first office, county council, back in 1999.
Why? Why did you run in 1999?
It was about jobs. It was about so many of our young people were leaving, were going, not that they wanted to leave here. Pittsburgh's a great place. And when I Pittsburgh, I'm talking like you are, Rich, broader than that.
Regional.
Whether you're from Butler or North Hills or Upper St. Clair. So we have great quality of life. People love this place. We complain sometimes about the weather or the traffic or whatever it might be. But for the most part, we're family. We, generations here. We just love what's going on. And it bothered me that so many people were moving away. And I thought, like somebody in my background in business, I'm a salesperson. I love the market. I love to sell. That I could do some good. And I ran for that first position. I served there for 12 years. And then in 2011, I really had to make the ultimate decision because county council is a part-time job. You can still work during the day, make money, et cetera. But in 2011, when I ran, I knew I had to, that I had to give up my other career. And I was fine with that. So I've enjoyed this last 12 years. I've enjoyed what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay active in economic development and things along those lines, workforce development, getting people the skills, getting people connected to the jobs that are there. That's what excites me. That's what I wake up every day, excited to do. And I love this place. So whether I'm ever going to run for something again, I don't know. We'll see. But that's, it's time sometimes for the next generation. I'm 63, they push the old guys out sometimes and say, hey, it's time for the next generation to come in and you old guys get out of the way.
It may be, Rich, but you know what? Do you have to be young or old to want to feel safe walking downtown Pittsburgh? And I don't feel safe right now doing that. And I think that somebody that has values steeped in tradition and, family oriented, you talk about it and you look at it through a different lens than somebody else might. And we want to be safe. Our crime is high. Our police force is reduced in numbers. So crime is high. We have a reduced police force. Is that a straight line correlation? I don't know.
It is one of the things that we're concerned about. It's one of the reasons I offered to the city, the county police to help them out and to become a kind of a supplemental service to what you're talking about. Because you're right, Richard. All the other quality of life issues that we talk about, traffic, jobs, public safety, you have to start there. Yeah. You're not going to show up to work. You're not going to show up to a show. You're not going to go to a restaurant. You're not going to go to all these great things that we have if you don't feel safe. If you feel you or your family is going to be put at risk by, going to, place A, place B, whatever it might be. So you start with the public safety, that we're a safe community, whatever that is, whether it's downtown or whether it's one of our other, community places. So we need to continue to work on that aspect. And then the rest of it, I think, starts to flow and starts to grow more naturally.
In the 12 years, what are you most proud of?
I guess the biggest thing was when the population finally increased at the last census. We went up 2%. We've kind of backslid 1% over the last couple of years, but we're still up. And it's the first time that we actually grew with young people, that our young population, our young adult population grew by 20% from 2000 through the 2020 census. The national average went up about 11%, but we in Allegheny County went up 20%. I'm also proud of the fact that we haven't raised taxes. If you bought a house in 2012 when I took office for $100,000, and that was what it was assessed at, that house is now worth about $250,000 on average. But you paid $388 in property tax, county property tax. 12 years later, you're still paying $388 in county property tax. And doing all those great things, we also reduced our air pollution by 80% over those last 12 years. So you can grow the economy, you can grow the population, and still work on improving our environment, which obviously Pittsburgh, our rivers, our air, our history going back to the industrial age, we didn't always do that in such a sustainable way.
We can't lose you, Rich.
You can't, whatever's next in your personal life, whether you retire, whether you advocate, whether you get back into the workforce, Richard's right. You have been an amazing county executive for the last 12 years. And on every level, you've done an amazing job. It's funny. I was pumping gas behind you at the get-go on Murray Avenue in Squirrel Hill a few months ago. And I was going to say hi to you, but I didn't, you look busy and preoccupied. And I was afraid you were going to turn around and be like, who's Bubba?
Was I on the phone? Because half the time I'm doing that, I'm on the phone. And
No, you weren't on the phone, but I was
Okay.
like, the last thing he needs is some guy coming up to him while he's pumping gas at the get-go on Murray Avenue. So, well, thank you so much for joining us for Car Stars and everything in between. You're fantastic.
Good to be with you guys, and thank you for what you do for this region too. We're all Pittsburghers, and we love this place. We bleed black and gold, and I'm going to continue bleeding black and gold for as long as I can. So thanks, guys.
County Executive Rich Fitzgerald on Car Stars and everything in between.